Hello and welcome back to Let's Play Final Fantasy XI. I am your host Brian, and this is my assistant, the able-bodied, maniacal, melodical, menace to mediocrity, Bri. We are covering the Ronfar region and surrounds today, and it's a very big region, so we'll get started in just a moment. This is one of the two exits into South San D'Oria from the Ronfru. This one is situated in East Ronfar rather, and the other exit is through the zone line into West Ronfar. You can see over that direction a Fields of Valor book. Those are popping up everywhere these days. This is our newbie area. Nice little field out here. These pugils are not newbie creatures. If you attack those at level 1, they'll probably hurt you badly. But luckily they're not aggressive, so you can pretty much ignore them. The actual newbie monsters in newbie field, for lack of a better term, are the tunnel worms and the wild rabbits. And you may also find some orcs around here. I'm not sure how close they come up to the gates, but you might want to avoid those at level 1. We have some bats, but those only spawn at night. Moving along, we have a long way to go today. Once we get further away from the gate, the wild rabbits start turning into forest hares, and the monsters get generally tougher. We have a river that runs out the gate from out under the wall from San D'Oria and down across the zone. Lots of crab monsters and pugils spawn along the river, and it's also quite adequate for fishing. However, bear in mind that when you fish outside of town gates, you may fish up monsters. Here is an example of a fungar, which we may or may not have seen before. We've been in areas that have them, although I don't know if I've been able to show them to you. Looks sort of like a cross between a frog and a mushroom. Be careful, they are poisonous. If they poison you, it's not quite as bad as it used to be. The poison, once upon a time, it would never wear off. It'd do like 120 points of damage to you before you died. And these days, they've scaled it back a little bit. It's not quite as hazardous as it used to be. As we're getting further away from the gate, we have some beetle monsters here. They're a little bit tougher than the monsters closer to the gate. And here's an example of an orc. Now, unlike the other beastmen races we've seen earlier, the orcs don't really have any secondary reason for attacking San D'Oria and harassing them. The Quadev, they're kind of defending their nesting grounds. The Yagudo are upset at Windurst for they perceive Windurst as killing the land off, but the orcs, they're pretty much just here to get their fight on. They come from an empire which is across the sea to the north, and they weren't really in evidence much, from what I understand, before the Crystal War of 20 years ago, but now that they've got their foot in the door, there just seems to be no dislodging them. Got some sheep creatures out here. Now, sheep, they're okay to fight one-on-one if you're strong enough. I really don't recommend fighting them in a party because they have an AoE sleep attack. And if they manage to put your whole party to sleep, then whoever's tanking the thing is going to be in a world of hurt. More fungar, more bats. The fungar, despite their poison, are a very nice farming target. They drop 3 different kinds of mushrooms and dark crystals, which sell for a pretty penny. So if you can take the fungar, you can get some nice gil out of the things that they drop. Still running south. It's kind of a big zone. Let me show you the map. Almost to the bottom, and to King Ranpierre's tomb. And stop a bit so I can show you. We have 2 exits into the West Ronfar. north and south, although there's really no distinction between the two. They even exit out pretty close to one another. We have one exit into the Kingdom of Sandioria. This zone's in the South Sandioria. Up here in the northeast, we have a exit into another region. This goes into let me see what that into the Norvalan region, I believe it is. No, it's not Norvalan. It's Farragonde, Ragemont Pass. That zone's in the Ragemont Pass, and we have one more exit down here at the bottom goes to King Ranpierre's tomb. King Ranpierre was the original king of Sandioria. He sort of put the thing together centuries ago, and he's still very well respected. I think he's known as the Dragon King in Sandioria and surrounds. Almost there. Now, we haven't seen any goblins yet here in the zone, but they're here, so make no mistake, the goblins and the orcs are the only creatures that'll come right out and attack you. Everything else, it'll mind its own business unless you hit it. Okay, as we zone into King Ranpierre's tomb, this area is divided loosely divided into two areas. There's no zone line between the two, but I'd like to call it the weak area and the strong area. We first zone in the weak part of the zone, where low-level adventurers can get some experience. In this section, the only real things you have to worry about are the goblins here and some undead creatures at night. But other than that, it's pretty state. And we're heading down into the underground section now. I'm not going to run all the way through the zone because it gets into areas where they'll straight up attack me and I don't have any backup. But I'll show you just this first tunnel section and show you the map so you can get an idea of what the zone looks like. Now as we head through the tunnels here, there's some goblins. They will attack you. The mouse bats won't straight up attack you, but if a mouse bat sees you fighting another mouse bat, it'll join in. And one thing that you'll frequently see people doing here is rounding up all the mouse bats to kill them all with the AoE attacks. It's a handy way for some mid-levels to get some EXP quickly. And we have some stone eaters. These, much like the other tunnel worm type creatures, is they'll attack you in melee if you run up to them, but if you stay out of melee range, they'll cast earth elemental magics at you, and that's not always a lot of fun. Overall, though, the worms are pretty easy to kill. Now, as we get further back, we'll be running into some more goblins, and I'm only going to go far enough back to show you the first tunnel out. And I'm not going to go further than that. I'm going to escape out and run off camera to our next zone. But here you get a good taste for what this specific spot looks like. And here's the exit back up into the areas above ground. This is where we'll pause, but I'll show you the map before we go. Okay, you can see here we're at the red dot. We came in from the north on the west side from East Ronfar, went down and underground in the tunnel, hit around this way in this loop, and then around this U-turn here to wind up here. Now this southern square section is much like the area we first came in with the collapsing walls and such. And then it goes back down into another underground section, and that's where it gets a lot harder. Now once we get out into the second underground section, you have two exits from the zone, one back into East Ronfar, but that's a one-way exit. Once you zone into East Ronfar, it's a step off a cliff, and then you can't get back that way. And then there's a zone into Jugner Forest, and that one you can come back and forth on, but that whole section of Jugner that you zone into is really a dead end. It's on the far side of a pond, and you can't really get anywhere from there. And here I'm going to cut the video so that we can save some time running to our next spot before we resume again. See you all shortly.